I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're discussing the powerful and thought-provoking book. It is called Are You Ready? How to Build a Legacy to Die For by Dr. Kimberly Harms. This insightful guide encourages us to focus on building positive legacies, understanding the process of death, and to prepare our loved ones emotionally for life after we're gone. With a blend of personal wisdom and practical advice, the doctor provides readers with tools to leave a lasting impact and graduate from life with honors. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. This is easier said than done in many ways because we have to admit our own mortality, because we all harbor in our head the thought that we're going to be the one person who lives forever. And then we have to be pretty selfless to work to prepare others for losing us. And I think that's all remarkable work and a ultimate act of love, really, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the best gifts you can give your children, and a love that lasts beyond your lifetime.
So how do we build a legacy to die for? I know you have a book about it and there's a lot
Yes.
to it, but what's a
Mhm.
good first one or two steps for us?
Well, I think it's important to remember that every interaction you have with every person, you are producing a legacy. So watch your actions. But secondly, I have 6 grandchildren, and so that's where my focus is right now. And you can leave lots of wonderful legacies like that legacy of education, the legacy of laughter, being able to laugh at yourself. That's a great legacy. Legacy of art or faith. There's so many of them. There's thousands of them. But by far, the most important legacy you can leave to your loved ones is just love. Tell them you love them. Tell them often.
Uh, Absolutely, absolutely. And there is so much we can do to empower the next generation. And they do live, we live in them. You know what I mean? Which is a wonderful thing as well, that your grandchildren will go on to have, your great grandchildren, great great grandchildren, and so on and so forth. And every time you empower them, you're empowering the entire family tree and the entire community and world, right?
Yes, your legacy can be left for multiple generations. And it's important to just focus right now. And the nice thing about the legacy of love is everybody can leave it. You don't have to win an Academy Award or a Nobel Prize to leave a legacy. It's those interactions, that the building up of those precious human beings that are going to be left behind when you're gone, just loving them, letting them know you're going to die. That's really important. And I've been talking to my grandchildren about that too. I'm going to be gone at some point, letting them know that so that they have that in their mind so that when you do go, they're able to manage the grief much more in a much healthier fashion.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was reading your resume. It's very impressive. One of the notations, of course, is that you're a death doula. I had only heard of birthing doulas. I'd never heard of a death doula. So tell us a little bit about your personal experiences with loss and how you help other people get through it.
Well, my personal experience, I've suffered through the 3 major losses in my life. I lost my mother when I was 17 to suicide, and then I lost my son, Eric, when he was 19, also to suicide. He was an amazing student at Columbia University, on top of the world. His girlfriend broke up with him, and he was gone in 45 minutes. He was also a jazz pianist, so that impulsive brain just took him very quickly. And of course, our lives were just destroyed at that time, just completely out of the blues. On top of the world when he came home for the holidays, and 2 weeks later, he was gone. That was a huge blow for me, and probably the inspiration for my understanding about how to get out of the grief pit, because I was there for a long time. And then my husband, Jim, passed away 4 years ago after a long battle with a broken heart
Mm.
after my son died. And I realized that I needed to make a difference in their lives. I needed for my time left on earth to have a purpose. And I think that's what we all can do. We all just need to, what's our purpose in life? And when we start to think about what legacy we can leave instead of what can the world give for me, you will not, you can't even imagine the joy that brings you. It's a win-win situation for both when you start living for your legacy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's tell the folks at home a little bit about your book. What will they find when they crack open the covers? What type of lessons? What's the structure of the book?
Well, the first third of the book talks about leaving your legacy, and I have stories of amazing people that have left wonderful legacies, and most of them you've never even heard of. I do a lot of work in Rwanda. We have 65 libraries, Eric Harms libraries in Rwanda. And so I've been working with people that have suffered a genocide, that have overcome that. How the heck do you have joy in your life again when your whole family was wiped out? And then even more incredible, how do you forgive the people that did that, which is what they're struggling with right now, and they've done a great job. So lots and lots of amazing legacies. I have a Holocaust survivor that tells her story, and then just average people who give average things. I've got a couple in our church that has a card legacy. They pass. I've probably gotten over 100 cards from them because they write a card for my birthday, for my anniversary. Sometimes it's the only card I get, but they remind me they're thinking of me and they care for me. So there's so many things that you can learned from that first book. The second part is the death doula part, talks about death and dying. What do people think about death and dying? Because we all have different ideas what's going to happen. And when you ask somebody, what do you think is going to happen after you die in a non-judgmental way, you're not going to judge what they say. It's fascinating what people think. Try it sometime. It's just amazing. And then the last part is like the meat of the book, which is the workbook, all the stuff you need to do, because when you leave your legacy, you want to leave your family in good shape. You don't want them involved in any type of confusion or conflict among each other because you didn't get everything put together. So I talk about developing a workbook, a binder with everything in it, including love letters to your family, so that if they don't realize how much you love them when they get that binder and they don't have to search through all your stuff to find things, you tell them right there, I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad you were my child. So that's basically, it's a 300-page book. So, there's a lot of meat to it.
Well, that's great. And I think it's really, really helpful. What have you personally learned about death and dying, outside of your own personal experience? Because that's almost too raw to learn
Mhm.
something from in a way. I might be wrong, but when you see other people going through it, um, what's brought you peace when you deal with people who are dying and the process of saying goodbye to this existence?
Well, I have a faith, so I've got some plans after I die. I think I'm
Yeah,
going to be up there with my son and my husband and my
yeah,
mother, so I'm not too worried about that myself. But I think we have to be willing to keep our mind open to people of other faiths when they're dying. I think what they need most is to be listened to be recorded. They want their life to have had some meaning, so help them talk to them about the meaning of their life. They want their family around them. They're not really thinking about work, which is really interesting. All the time we spend trying to, move ourselves up in our jobs, that's not really what they're thinking about. They're thinking about their family and their friends. And so I also find that I believe death is not a grim reaper. I think it's a very gentle reaper from my experience, and not to be afraid of it. I think I was afraid of death like most people were until my son died. And that of course shook me up completely. Everything was reassembled after that.
yeah.
And I no longer fear it. I don't look forward to it because I want to leave more legacy. I've got these grandkids.
Right,
I got stuff to do with these grandkids.
right.
But when my time comes, I'm not afraid. I
Yeah.
really, and then I don't have fear of anything right now. I don't fear the future. I'm not afraid. I have a peace and a joy that is just beyond words and invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing when you are around people who are passing. You do learn a lot. I mean, I've dealt with only two deaths in my life, really, thank goodness. My mother and father are both at advanced ages, but it still hits you like they've been hit by a
Mm-hmm.
car, because it hurts that much. But my mom was almost happy to go. She was 85 years old. She said to me, I've done everything I wanted to do. She'd been getting into conversations with her past relatives, um, around the weeks before she died. She was literally sitting on the side of the bed with her purse, saying she was ready to go. And so it was amazing the amount of peace she had around her, the amount of grace she had. It was us children who were like, no, doctors, do everything you can
Yes.
possibly do to save her. And in hindsight, that was a huge mistake, because it prolonged her suffering. And she didn't need to suffer because the end result was the same. She was still gone. And that's how it is for a lot of people at the end of their lives. You're going to die, whether it's today, tomorrow, 6 months from now. How you die matters, though, right?
Right. And that's why it's really important to talk about, and I do in my book in the workbook section, about having a healthcare directive in place, because my husband gave me that wonderful, wonderful gift of saying exactly how he wanted to die. And he said, I do not want to go back to that hospital.
Yeah.
Get me. In fact, I had to get him out of the hospital. Get me out of the hospital. I don't want to be there. And when I realized that the hospital wasn't making him any better, that's when I finally relented. Because doctors don't like to tell you you're dying anymore. I wish they would. They didn't in my case. It was finally the nurses that came over and said, I think he's ready for hospice. And we finally realized that. But the healthcare directive told us what he wanted to do. He didn't want a hospital. He wanted to die at home, and he died at home. He actually kind of died twice. He had two little episodes, and he died peacefully both times. He was talking, and then poof, he was gone. So it was a great gift for us to know that this is what he wanted. So we probably could have kept him alive another week or two, if he was intubated and put in a hospital.
But then
That's
you're
not what he
suffering
wanted.
through the
Right.
intubation, you're suffering through the IVs, you're getting poked and prodded, and you can't talk and you're not breathing. It all stinks. There is no easy way. I mean, it's much better, if you can, to die on your own terms.
Yeah.
And as I started this interview, that was very selfless of him to give you that healthcare directive, because he
Yes.
loved you so much, he didn't want you to have to make these agonizing decisions at the end.
Right. And we were even able to have a party for him before he went. We almost had like a living funeral. We didn't really call it that, but we had everybody come over because he had an episode where he stopped breathing for about 20 minutes. I thought he was dead the day before, and we got everybody over. It happened to be my son's birthday, so that was really quite an event. We got everybody over. Everyone got to say goodbye. He was in his glory. He wasn't able to move very much, but he was in his glory. He got all the Diet Coke and ice cream he wanted. He was diabetic. Um, and I did monitor his insulin in case you're worried, but we was okay. But he had this wonderful, wonderful day where everyone came over to tell him how much they loved him. One of his brothers hadn't talked to him in years, and they reconciled. It was the most beautiful day of my life, and we wouldn't have been able to do that in a hospital. We could do it at home in his bed with all of his family in the bed with him. The whole bed almost broke. We had all these people in there with him. So I think that was a great gift, not only for him, but for me, because when he did go, I was at peace, and I knew he had done what he wanted to do, and everyone could have said goodbye, including me.
Have the Irish wake before they go, if you
Yes,
can,
exactly.
which
I'm
is great.
Irish, so yeah.
Yeah, well, because you get the family together and there's laughter and there's
Mhm.
stories. I mean, that's just how wakes evolve. I mean, you
Yes.
get together, you're grieving, you're sad, and then the next thing you know, his brother's coming in and telling a story about how he rescued a puppy when he was 7 years old. All the wonderful things you learn about your parents after they've gone, or your loved ones after they've gone, because people open up and share these stories. And beautifully with your husband, you were able to have a little bit of that before he passed. And I think that's
Yes.
wonderful. The name of the book is Are You Ready? How to Build a Legacy to Die For. It's written by Dr. Kimberly Harms. It is an insightful guide that encourages us to focus on building positive legacies, understand the process of death, and prepare our loved ones emotionally for life after we're gone. And that is a great gift to give. Doctor, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you so much, Logan.
I appreciate it. Appreciate your candor and time. I enjoyed speaking with you. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.